The research station drifted quietly in space, moving in a slow circle around a small red star. The star was old and gentle, giving off a soft light that painted the station in deep orange shadows. Inside the station, the air was warm, clean, and carefully controlled. Machines hummed in low tones, and lights stayed dim to save energy. Everything worked as it should. Almost everything. Elena Morris stood near the main observation window, reading data on her tablet. She had been on the station for 3 years now, long enough to stop noticing the endless dark outside. The station was home, a strange one, shared by humans and several alien species, but still home. That morning, a new report had arrived, and it did not make sense. She turned and walked down the curved hallway toward the medical wing. Her boots made soft sounds against the metal floor. The station was quieter than usual. Many of the crew were resting after a long shift, and the alien guests followed different sleep cycles. At the end of the hall, she stopped in front of a door marked with soft blue light. Inside was Ishara. Ishara was not human. Her body was tall and thin, with smooth, pale skin that looked almost like stone. Her face had no hair, and her eyes were large and dark, reflecting light instead of shining on their own. She wore a simple robe designed by human engineers, adjusted again and again to fit her shape. Ishara was an envoy from the Lyrian Collective, one of the newest members of the Galactic Alliance. Her mission was peaceful. Observation, learning, and slow trust-building. She was supposed to stay on the station for 6 months. It had been only 2 weeks, and already there was a problem. Elena stepped inside. The room was warm, warmer than most areas of the station. Medical lights glowed gently. Ishara lay on a resting platform, her body still, her eyes open. "You are awake again," Elena said softly. "Yes," Ishara replied. Her voice was calm, but tired. "I did not enter rest." Elena checked the readings on the wall screen. Heart rhythm unstable, neural activity irregular, stress markers too high. "You haven't slept at all?" Elena asked. "Not in the way you define sleep," Ishara said. "My body pauses, but my mind does not settle." This was the 3rd night in a row. At first, the human doctors thought it was stress, a new place, new species, new gravity, but the station systems were perfect. Air pressure, gravity level, temperature, light cycles, all matched the Lyrian home environment as closely as possible. Still, Ishara could not sleep. "We adjusted the room temperature again," Elena said. "It matches your home world now, even closer than yesterday." "Yes," Ishara said. "The temperature is correct." Elena hesitated. "Then what feels wrong?" Ishara was quiet for a long moment. She looked toward the far wall, where a soft light strip ran near the floor. "There is no grounding," she said carefully. Elena frowned. "Grounding? I lack a signal that tells my body it is safe to rest." The word safe caught Elena's attention. "You feel unsafe here?" "No," Ishara said quickly. "Not unsafe. Alone." Elena did not reply right away. The station was full of people. Humans worked everywhere. Ishara had a small team assigned to her care. She was never truly alone. "I do not mean socially alone," Ishara continued as if reading Elena's thoughts. "I mean biologically alone." Elena set her tablet down. "Can you explain?" Ishara slowly sat up on the platform. Her movements were careful, controlled. "My species does not produce internal heat as yours does. We evolved in stable environments. Our rest cycles rely on external signs that the world is steady." "And those signs are missing here?" Elena asked. "They are simulated," Ishara said. "But simulation is not presence." Elena felt a strange chill at those words. The medical team tried everything over the next 2 days. They adjusted the light spectrum. They changed the air movement. They altered the sound frequencies of the station. They even tried mild neural stimulation, safe, gentle, approved by the Alliance. Nothing worked. Ishara remained awake, calm, polite, but slowly growing weaker. On the fourth night, the station entered its quiet cycle. Most lights dimmed, hallways emptied. Only a few crew members stayed awake to monitor systems. Caleb Turner was one of them. Caleb was a systems engineer, not a doctor. He spent his nights checking power flows, adjusting minor faults, and making sure nothing overheated or failed. He liked the quiet hours. The station felt different at night. Slower, softer. He was working near the medical wing when he noticed the door to Ishara's room was still glowing. "She's awake again," one of the nurses said quietly as she passed him. Caleb nodded. He had heard about the problem. Everyone had. The idea that the station's best technology could not solve a simple thing like sleep made people uneasy. Without really thinking about it, Caleb stopped near the open doorway. He did not go inside. He just stood there, leaning against the wall, checking his wrist screen. Inside, Ishara noticed him. "Who is that?" she asked softly. The nurse looked back. "That's Caleb. Engineering, can he remain?" Ishara asked. The nurse blinked. "Remain? Nearby," Ishara said, not interacting. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. "As long as he doesn't interfere." Caleb looked up, surprised. "Me? You don't have to do anything," the nurse said. "Just be here," Caleb shrugged. "Sure." He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed loosely. He could feel the warmth of the room, stronger than usual. He did not think much of it. Inside the room, Ishara lay back down. Minutes passed. Elena watched the medical readings from her station across the hall. At first, nothing changed. Then slowly, the lines on the screen began to smooth. "Is this right?" she whispered. Stress markers dropped. Neural patterns stabilized. Heart rhythm slowed into a steady cycle. Elena looked up, confused. Inside the room, Ishara's eyes slowly closed. She slept. Caleb did not know when it happened. One moment he was watching his screen. The next he noticed the room had gone completely still. "She's asleep," the nurse whispered. Caleb shifted his weight. "Good, I guess." Elena rushed over, staring at the monitors. "This doesn't make sense." "What did we change?" the nurse asked. Elena looked around the room. Nothing. Her eyes moved to Caleb. "Don't move," she said suddenly. Caleb froze. Okay?" Elena studied the data. The only difference between this night and the others was him. A human body. Standing nearby, giving off heat without thinking about it. "Ishara," Elena said softly. There was no response. Ishara slept deeply. Hours later, when Ishara woke, she looked calmer than Elena had ever seen her. "That was rest," Ishara said quietly. "True rest." Elena took a slow breath. What changed? Ishara turned her head slightly, eyes resting on Caleb. "He was there," she said. Caleb blinked. "Me?" "Yes," Ishara said. "Your warmth reached me. Not as temperature. As assurance." Elena felt her heart beat faster. "Are you saying human body heat helped you sleep?" "Yes," Ishara said simply. "Human warmth helps me sleep at night." The room fell silent. Outside the window, the red star continued to glow, unaware that something small and very human had just changed everything. When Ishara woke after many hours of deep rest, the station felt different to her. The lights were the same, the air was the same, and the quiet hum of machines had not changed. But inside her body, something had shifted. Her thoughts were slower, calmer, no longer sharp with constant awareness. Dr. Elena Morris noticed it immediately. You look lighter, Elena said as she stood near Ashara's resting platform. I feel aligned, Ashara replied. My mind is no longer fighting itself. Elena checked the medical screen again, even though she had already done so 3 times. Ishara's readings were stable. More than stable. They were better than the baseline data the Lyrian Collective had sent. This is more than just sleep, Elena said quietly. Yes, Ishara agreed. Sleep was only the door. Caleb Turner stood near the doorway again, unsure if he was supposed to be there. He felt awkward. He was not a doctor. He did not understand alien biology. All he had done was stand still and exist. I didn't do anything, he said, almost apologetically. Elena looked at him. That may be the problem, or the solution. Over the next few days, the medical team began careful testing. They were slow and respectful, explaining everything to Ashara before trying it. Trust mattered. They adjusted the room temperature back and forth while Caleb stood outside. No change. They asked Caleb to leave. Ishara's stress levels rose within minutes. They asked another human to stand nearby. The effect was similar, but weaker. They asked 2 humans to sit quietly in the room, not speaking, not touching. Ishara's readings improved more quickly than before. This is not coincidence, Elena said during one of the team meetings. This is biology. But how? A researcher asked. Heat is heat. Our systems can produce more warmth than any human body. Ishara answered for them. Your machines produce controlled temperature. Humans produce presence. The room went quiet. What does that mean? Caleb asked. Ishara took a moment, choosing her words carefully. My species evolved without internal heat. We rely on environmental signals to enter rest. On my world, those signals came from living surroundings, not individuals, but patterns of life. Movement, breath, shared warmth that changes slightly, never perfectly stable. Elena nodded slowly. Our systems are too perfect. Yes, Ishara said. Perfection feels empty. That idea spread through the station faster than anyone expected. At first, it was only quiet curiosity. Crew members talked in low voices during meals. Engineers joked about being portable heaters. But beneath the humor was something deeper. Humans were used to thinking of themselves as weak compared to advanced alien species. They lacked natural armor. They needed machines to survive space. They tired easily. Now, suddenly their bodies mattered in a new way. Caleb felt strange about it. He did not like attention. When Elena asked him to officially join the research sessions, he hesitated. I'm not special, he said. Elena smiled gently. That's exactly why this matters. During the next rest cycle, Ishara asked Caleb to sit inside the room instead of outside, not close, just present. Caleb sat on a low bench near the wall. He folded his hands together, trying not to move too much. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of air circulation. You do not need to remain still, Ishara said. I don't want to mess anything up, Caleb replied. You will not, Ishara said. Your natural state is sufficient. That sentence stayed with him. As Ishara rested, her breathing slowed. Her skin temperature shifted slightly, adjusting to the warmth in the room. But it was not only physical. Elena watched the brain scans with growing amazement. Her emotional centers are active, she said softly. More than before. What does that mean? Caleb asked. It means she's processing things she normally wouldn't during rest, Elena said. Memories, feelings. Ishara slept for hours. When she woke, she did not sit up right away. She looked thoughtful. I dreamed, she said. Elena leaned forward. What did you see? I was standing on my home world, Ishara said, but it was different. There were others around me. Not my species, humans. Caleb shifted. That's strange? Yes, Ishara said. Dreams are strange, but they reflect truth. Over the following week, Ishara's questions increased. Not medical questions, but personal ones. Why do humans sit together when tired? She asked during one quiet evening. Caleb thought about it. I guess it feels better. Why? I don't know, he said honestly. It's just comfortable. Ishara nodded. Comfort is a signal? She asked about blankets, about shared meals, about why humans reached out without thinking when someone was close. These behaviors are not efficient, she said. Caleb smiled. We're not very efficient. Elena realized then that something bigger was happening. Human warmth was not only helping Ishara sleep, it was opening something in her that had never been explored. The Lyrian collective had always been calm, logical, controlled. Emotional distance was considered healthy, but Ishara was experiencing a different way to exist. This could change how your people live, Elena said carefully. Yes, Ishara replied, and that is why it is frightening. Elena understood. Change always was. The station council requested a report. Elena stood before the screen, data flowing behind her. Representatives from multiple species listened in silence. In short, Elena said, human presence appears to provide a biological and psychological stabilizing effect on certain species. This is not intentional. Humans evolved this way without awareness. A soft murmur moved through the council. What are the risks? One representative asked. Elena glanced at Ishara, who was standing calmly beside her. The risk, Ishara said, is attachment. The word carried weight. We do not form bonds easily, Ishara continued. Human warmth encourages bonding, rest, emotional openness. And is that bad? The representative asked. No, Ishara said, but it is unfamiliar. The council requested more time, more studies. No sudden changes. Back on the station, life continued, but with subtle differences. Humans spent more time in shared spaces. Not because they were told to, but because it felt right. Ishara spent her evenings near the crew lounge, not speaking much, just being there. Caleb noticed she always chose a seat near others. One night, as the station entered its quiet cycle, Ishara paused near Caleb. Will you remain nearby? She asked. Of course, he said. She settled in to rest easily this time, without medical equipment, without adjustments. Elena watched from the hallway, a mix of pride and unease in her chest. Humanity had always searched for purpose among the stars. Technology, knowledge, exploration. They had never considered that simply being human might be enough. Outside the station, the red star continued its slow, patient burn. Inside, something gentle and powerful was taking root. Something no one had planned, and no machine could replace. And this was only the beginning. The change did not happen all at once. It moved slowly, like warmth spreading through cold metal. At first, only the medical team noticed it, then the engineers. Then the rest of the station began to feel it too. Ishara no longer needed special preparation to sleep. She rested easily now, sometimes alone, sometimes near others. Her body adapted, adjusting to the soft living rhythm of human presence. But the deeper change was not physical, it was inside her thoughts. She began to pause more often during conversations. Not because she struggled to understand, but because she felt something unfamiliar. Curiosity mixed with emotion. Reflection mixed with memory. Dr. Elena Morris watched closely. Your neural scans are different, Elena said one morning. Not unstable, just broader. Ishara considered this. My mind is expanding its range. That sounds uncomfortable. Elena said gently. Yes, Ishara agreed, but also relieving. Caleb sat nearby, pretending to work on his wrist screen while listening. He had grown used to being included in these conversations, though he still felt strange about it. You're changing, he said. Ishara turned her gaze toward him. So are you? He frowned. Me? You are more attentive, Ishara said. You remain even when not requested. Caleb shrugged. I guess I don't mind being here. That is a form of choice, Ishara said. My people rarely make such choices without purpose. That idea stayed with Caleb long after the conversation ended. As days passed, Ishara began spending more time in shared areas. She sat quietly in the observation lounge while humans talked softly around her. She stood near the engineering bay, listening to the rhythm of work. She even joined a meal once, though she did not eat. The humans did not change their behavior for her. That seemed to matter most. During one rest cycle, Ishara did not return to her room. Instead, she settled on a padded bench in the common area where several crew members were already resting after long shifts. No one spoke. No one questioned it. She slept deeply. When she woke, she felt something new. She felt connected. The next day, a message arrived from the Lyrian Collective. Elena read it twice before calling Ishara in. They're concerned, Elena said carefully. They've noticed changes in your reports, Ishara nodded. I expected this. They're asking if human exposure is affecting your judgment. Ishara was silent for a moment. Is it? Elena did not answer right away. She chose her words with care. I think it's affecting your experience. That's not the same thing. Ishara placed her hands together, a gesture she had learned from watching humans. My people value clarity. Emotional distance provides that. And now? Elena asked. Now I see more, Ishara said. But seeing more requires feeling more. The collective requested additional data. They wanted to know if Ishara's response was unique or repeatable. That was how the volunteers arrived. 3 non-human observers from different species joined the station, each with minor rest-related issues common in long-term space travel. Nothing serious, nothing urgent. The testing was careful. No touching, no forced proximity, just shared space. The results were impossible to ignore. Stress levels dropped. Rest cycles improved. Cognitive focus increased. One of the observers described it simply, when humans are nearby, the universe feels quieter. The station council held another meeting. This changes everything, one representative said. Humans were never classified as a support species. Elena spoke calmly. Humans were never classified as this at all. There was debate, ethical questions, concerns about dependence. Will other species rely too much on humans? One voice asked. Ishara answered. Reliance is not weakness if it is mutual. Caleb listened from the back of the room. He felt small and large at the same time. He had always thought of humanity as fragile in the galactic scale. Now, that fragility seemed to be part of their strength. Later that evening, Caleb found Ishara near the observation window. The red star glowed softly beyond the glass. Are you worried? He asked. Yes, Ishara said. And no. That's not very clear. She looked at him. Clarity is changing for me. Caleb smiled faintly. Welcome to being human. She studied his expression. Is uncertainty common for your kind? All the time, he said. We just keep going anyway. That explains much, Ishara replied. That night, Ishara dreamed again. This time, the dream was not of places, but of feelings, warmth without source, presence without words. She felt herself standing among humans, not as an observer, but as part of a quiet whole. When she woke, She felt a strange pressure behind her eyes. I believe I experienced sorrow, she told Elena later. Elena looked up sharply. Sorrow? Yes, Ishara said. Not pain. Loss without injury. Elena's voice softened. It's a very human feeling. I do not dislike it, Ishara said. It gives weight to connection. Reports were sent. Data was shared. Slowly, carefully, across the Alliance. Other stations began adjusting their designs. Shared lounges instead of isolated rest pods. Softer temperature variations. Spaces meant for quiet togetherness. Humans were not assigned. They were invited. Some worried this would change how humans were seen, not explorers. Not engineers, but something gentler. Elena disagreed. This doesn't replace what we do, she said. It explains why we do it together. Caleb noticed changes in himself too. He stayed longer and shared spaces. He listened more. He felt useful in ways he never had before, without fixing anything. One evening, Ishara joined him again during his maintenance shift. You do not need me tonight, she said. I know, he replied. But you can stay if you want. She did. As the station drifted through quiet space, surrounded by distant stars, something new was being written into the story of the galaxy. Not a law, not a technology, a truth. That life did not only survive through strength or intelligence. Sometimes it survived through warmth, and sometimes that warmth came from simply staying. The station was no longer just a research outpost. It had become a place people talked about. Messages arrived every day now. Some were careful and formal, sent through official Alliance channels. Others were quiet and personal, written by individuals who had heard the stories and wanted to understand. They all asked the same thing in different ways. Was it true? Could humans really help others rest? Dr. Elena Morris spent more time answering questions than running tests. She chose her words carefully. She did not want to turn something natural into a tool. This is not a service, she said again and again. It is a shared effect. Humans do not give it on purpose. Still, the interest grew. New station designs were proposed. Not dramatic changes, small ones. Larger shared spaces. Softer lighting. Areas where different species could sit together without expectation. The word comfort appeared in official documents for the first time. Mishara watched all of this with mixed feelings. My people are debating, she told Elena one evening. Some believe this connection is dangerous. And you? Elena asked. I believe ignoring it would be more dangerous, Ishara replied. The Lyrian Collective requested Ishara's return for evaluation. The message arrived quietly, but its meaning was heavy. Caleb was in the engineering bay when he heard. Elena told him gently, as if the words themselves needed care. They want her to come home, she said. To decide if this change should continue. Caleb nodded, but something tightened in his chest. Does she want to go? Elena paused. She hasn't said. That night, Ishara did not rest in the common area. She stood alone near the observation window, watching the slow movement of stars. Caleb joined her without speaking. After a long silence, Ishara spoke. My people fear what cannot be controlled. Humans too, Caleb said. We just hide it better. I am expected to return, Ishara said. To explain what has happened to me. And what will you say? He asked. She turned toward him. I will say that I slept, that I dreamed, that I felt less alone. Caleb smiled sadly. That might scare them. Yes, Ishara said, but it is also true. Badada. Elena prepared reports for the council, data charts, neural scans, environmental studies. All of it showed the same thing. Human presence created subtle, positive effects across multiple species, but data could not explain meaning. During the final council session before Ishara's departure, representatives from many species joined. "We must define humanity's role," one voice said. "If this effect spreads, it will change interstellar society." Another voice replied, "Change is not harm, but dependence could be," someone argued. Ishara listened carefully, then spoke. "You fear that others will rely on humans," she said. "But humans already rely on each other. That is how they survive." The council grew quiet. Caleb stood at the back, hands folded, feeling very small again. A decision was made. Careful, balanced. Humans would not be assigned as support. No species would be required to seek them. But stations and ships would encourage shared spaces where humans could simply be present if they chose. It was a choice, not a command. When the session ended, Elena felt both relief and worry. "This is bigger than us now," she said. "Yes," Ishara replied, "and still fragile." The day of Ishara's departure arrived slowly. No alarms, no rush, just a quiet shift in routine. She walked through the station one last time. The corridors felt warmer than before, though the temperature had not changed. Humans paused when they saw her. Some nodded, some smiled, some said nothing at all. All of it mattered. Caleb walked with her to the docking bay. "You will return," he said, not quite asking. "I do not know," Ishara answered honestly, "but I will carry this with me." She placed her hand lightly against her chest, copying a human gesture she had learned. "You taught us nothing," Caleb said. "You just noticed." "That is often enough," Ishara replied. As her transport detached from the station, Elena watched from the control room. She felt an unexpected ache. "We didn't lose her," a nurse said softly. "No," Elena agreed, "but we changed her, and ourselves." Weeks passed. Reports returned from the Lyrian homeworld. Ishara had undergone evaluation. She was different, but not broken, more expressive, more thoughtful. She slept better even there, especially when surrounded by others. Slowly, quietly, the Lyrian collective began redesigning their rest chambers. Not machines. Rooms. Other species followed. Humans began receiving invitations, not orders. Requests. Some went. Some did not. Those who went were not heroes. They sat. They worked. They shared space. They laughed softly. They existed. Caleb declined most invitations. He stayed on the station. But he noticed how humans everywhere began seeing themselves differently, not weak, not small, just necessary. One night, long after Ishara had left, Caleb sat alone in the common area. The station hummed around him. Lights dimmed. The red star glowed beyond the glass. A message arrived on his wrist screen. It was from Ishara. "I slept well last night," it said. "I was not near humans, but I remembered how it felt." Caleb smiled. He typed back slowly. "We're still here." The station drifted on, carrying that quiet truth through space. And across the galaxy, species began to understand something humans had always known without naming it. That being together was not a weakness. It was a kind of strength no machine could replace. And the universe felt a little less cold because of it. The station had changed, but not in ways that could be measured easily. The walls were the same. The lights still dimmed on schedule. Machines continued their quiet work. Yet something gentle lived in the spaces between people now. Something that had not been there before. Caleb felt it every night. He sat in the common area during the quiet cycle, not because he had to, but because it felt right. Others did the same. Engineers, researchers, visitors from different worlds. Some talked softly. Some sat in silence. No one questioned why. The universe no longer felt so large when they were together. Doctors. Elena Morris watched this from a distance at first. She had spent her life studying systems, causes, and effects. She trusted data. But this change was not something she could place neatly on a screen. One evening, she joined them. She sat beside Caleb, resting her hands in her lap. "Do you ever think about how strange this is?" she asked quietly. "All the time," Caleb replied. "But it doesn't feel wrong." Elena nodded. "That's what surprises me." Across the galaxy, the effect spread slowly. No announcements, no declarations, just small shifts. Stations redesigned their lounges. Ships replaced isolated rest pods with shared rooms. Schedules changed to allow overlap between species. Humans were never required to attend. Their presence was welcome, not demanded. That choice mattered. Some humans said no. They stayed in their private spaces, tired or overwhelmed. And that was accepted too. The warmth worked best when it was given freely. Ishara watched all of this from her homeworld. She stood in a wide room filled with soft light and gentle movement. Others of her kind rested nearby, not touching, just present. It still felt new to her. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly. Her mind settled easily now. She slept without effort. She dreamed often. Sometimes she dreamed of the Red Star. Sometimes of the station. Sometimes of Caleb sitting quietly, not doing anything important, just being there. When she woke, she felt a pull. Not strong, not urgent, but steady. She contacted Elena. "The collective has made a decision," Ishara said. Elena leaned forward. "What kind of decision?" "We will not resist this change," Ishara replied. "We will not rush it either. We will learn." Elena smiled. "That sounds wise." "It is uncomfortable," Ishara added. "But growth often is." Caleb heard the news later. He did not cheer. He did not feel proud in the loud way stories often described. Instead, he felt calm. Humanity did not need to prove itself. That was new. Months passed. The station received visitors who stayed longer than planned. Some came for research. Others came simply to rest. Humans were not hosts in the traditional sense. They worked. They ate. They laughed. They existed as they always had. And somehow, that was enough. One evening, Caleb received a message that made his hands pause over his wrist screen. It was from Ishara. "I am coming to visit," it said. "If you will allow it." He stared at the words for a long time before replying. "You don't need permission," he wrote. "But yes, I'll be here." The day she arrived, the station felt fuller. Not crowded, just complete. Ishara stepped through the docking corridor calmly, her posture steady. She looked healthier than ever. Her movements were easier, her gaze warmer. Elena greeted her first. They embraced in the careful, respectful way they had learned together. "You look well," Elena said. "I am," Ishara replied. "I rest now, even when alone, but presence still matters." Caleb stood a few steps back, unsure. Ishara noticed him and walked over. "You remained," she said. "Yeah," he replied. "Guess I did." They sat together later in the common area. Not alone. Others were there, speaking softly, resting, sharing quiet time. Ishara closed her eyes and let herself relax. "This is different now," she said. "I no longer need you to sleep." Caleb nodded. "I figured. But I still prefer this," she added. He smiled. Across the Alliance, discussions continued. Some feared humans would lose themselves in this role. Others feared dependence, but those fears softened. over time. Because humans did not change who they were. They did not build monuments to warmth. They did not charge for presence. They did not define themselves as saviors. They just stayed human. Elena wrote her final report months later. It was shorter than expected. Humanity's contribution, she concluded, is not a function or a service. It is a state of being shaped by evolution, community, and shared survival. Attempts to isolate or weaponize this effect will fail. It works only when it is real. The council accepted it. Caleb never left the station, not because he was needed, but because he wanted to be there. He watched stars rise and fade. He shared meals. He listened. One night, long after Ishara had returned to her people again, Caleb sat alone by the observation window. The red star still glowed. Elena joined him quietly. "Do you ever wonder what history will say about this?" she asked. Caleb thought for a moment. "I hope they don't make it sound bigger than it was," Elena smiled. "Bigger?" "Yeah," he said. "It wasn't some great plan. We didn't change the galaxy on purpose." "That may be why it worked," Elena said. "Elsewhere, on distant worlds and moving ships, humans sat beside others. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they said nothing. Sometimes they just shared the same space. Sleep came easier. Loneliness softened. Not because humans were special, but because they stayed. And in a universe filled with cold distances and endless dark, that simple act became something rare, something precious, something enough. The stars did not care, but the people beneath them did. And for the first time, the galaxy rested a little easier at night.